Hello everyone, and here we have a new story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics in the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail. Broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published once every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello, I want to tell you my story. I'm 26 years old and my wife is 21 years old. We have a child together. This is a girl. She is 3 years old. We have been living together for 6 years. We have been living together for 6 years. It all started last year when my wife met a 35-year-old man at work. That day, my wife returned home at 5 a.m. I had to wake up for work at 6 a.m. My wife fell asleep at my feet with a mobile phone in her hand. I woke up and saw that my wife was texting with someone, but I didn't betray much importance to this. From that day on, we started having problems. My wife became cold and started moving away from me. To the question, what happened? She replied that everything was fine. We lived in such an atmosphere for a week. As a result, she told me herself that she wanted to live separately. I was shocked by what I heard. I asked my wife what happened. Will you explain to me? She told me that she needed to sort out our relationship. I asked her what's wrong with our relationship. She replies that it's not about me, it's about her, and she needs time, and he offers us to live separately for a while. I said that if it's so important to her, let's try it. I was kind of worried at heart. The next day, while I was at work, my wife moved in with her parents. 2 days later, I couldn't stand it and started running and asking wife for forgiveness. I started asking mutual friends what was going on with my wife. One girl, our mutual friend, told me that my wife communicates very well with this man who's 35 years old. I think that's why my wife started dressing up beautifully and doing makeup every day. It later turned out that they had a whirlwind romance. They've even had sex. I lost my head from the information I heard. I felt very bad and I didn't know what to do. My wife's relationship with this guy didn't last long. Because one day, I came to the office where this guy worked. I had a desire to beat him up so that he would forget his name and understand that you can't have sex with someone else's wife. I told him that I knew he was fucking my wife. He was at a loss and began to deny everything. I still hard to beat him up, but I couldn't when I looked at his pathetic face. After our conversation, I left and immediately my wife started calling me, but I didn't pick up the phone. I came home, packed all her things, and sent them by delivery to my wife's parents. I went to the store and got 3 bottles of whiskey. This evening, I got very drunk and turned off my mobile phone. In the morning, my wife came in and started crying and saying that there was nothing between them. According to her, they just communicated on social networks, nothing more. In a rage, I called my wife a traitor and kicked her out of my house. A week later, my wife and I met in the park and I suggested that she start from scratch. It was the biggest mistake of my life, but I couldn't do anything to myself because I loved my wife very much. My wife agreed to return everything, but on condition that she goes to the bar with her friends that day. Why did she go without me? Because that day I was watching our child at home. As a result, my wife felt the power and it all lasted for 6 months. She was often not at home. She constantly went to nightclubs, bars, and so on. I've been raising our daughter all this time. We had a lot of arguments about it, but my wife didn't give a damn about me. We had sex very rarely once a month. Winter has come and we have another scandal. Because I came across my wife's correspondence with a guy again. My wife sent him intimate photos of herself. Naturally, I kicked her out again. The next day, my wife's parents came to visit me. They started asking me why I kicked out their daughter. I replied to my wife's parents to ask this question to their daughter and closed the door in their face. Quarantine came and I started working remotely. My mood is shit. Thank God my daughter was with me. When I was with her, it was easier for me. 2 days later, I took my daughter to visit grandparents. I returned home and started looking for additional work because I had financial problems. As a result, I had to take out a loan. This was my next mistake. My debts were growing and I couldn't pay them off. I began to feel very depressed. I started to miss my wife a lot. I felt very bad without her. Thank God my friends supported me. I started spending time with my friends a lot. I was getting better and better every day. I even started to forget my wife. 2 months later, my wife called me and invited me to a party. Our mutual friends will be at this party. On my way to the party, I went to the store and bought 2 bottles of whiskey and a bottle of wine. An hour later, I was already there. When I saw my wife, my mood lifted. We all drank together and had a good time. We just had a good rest like in the good old days. My wife and I decided to leave earlier. On the way home, we talked about our relationship. She suggested that I restore our relationship. I told her that she had cheated on me twice and I would not be able to believe her. She was crying and begging for forgiveness. She said she made a mistake and it won't happen again. She said she wanted a strong family with me and pressed for pity, remembering our daughter. She said she would try to regain my trust. I asked her a question. Did she have sex with these guys? My wife answered no. In the end, I agreed to return our relationship again. But I warned her that if I found out anything about her lovers, I would immediately file for divorce. A day later, we moved to our apartment and started living together. We started spending more time together. Our life began to play with new colors. Later, my wife got a job. I still worked from home and my salary was small because there wasn't much work. My wife bought food and paid for utilities. During this time, we had no quarrels and scandals. But soon, she found out that I had big debts. I told her that I would deal with the debts myself. We started quarreling about it. My wife told her parents that I had big debts. She said she couldn't live with me because of my debts. A week passed and it seemed to me that everything was fine. I went to work full time. I began to slowly sort out my debts. But at the end of July, I noticed that my wife is unhappy. I asked her, "Are you all right?" In response, my wife said, "Leave me alone." I silently left the house and decided to go for a coffee. I was shocked by what I heard. I didn't understand what was going on. I drank coffee and went home. As a result, my wife tells me, "Either you pack your things and leave, either I take my daughter and we move." She said she was tired of supporting me. I tell her, "Honey, we're paying 50. Why are you saying that?" But she didn't want to listen to me. After our conversation, she went outside and talked to someone on the phone. She was gone for 20 minutes. During this time, I put our daughter to bed. My wife came back with a smile on her face and went to the shower. In the morning, I took our daughter to kindergarten and went to work. At lunchtime, my wife sends me a text message saying that I'm sitting on her neck and she doesn't want to live with me and build a relationship. She picks up our daughter and goes to her parents. I was at a loss again. I asked her what the problem. Everything she said was untrue because I tried to pay for everything myself. But in most cases, we paid 50-50. In response, my wife wrote that she didn't need anything from me and she could handle our daughter on her own. She also allowed me to see my daughter when she is at work. In the end, she finished me off and said she was tired and didn't want to be with me. When I got home, they were gone. I went to my wife's parents. She opened the front door in a beautiful dress and makeup. Obviously, she was going on a date. I told her that she hadn't changed because she was a whore and remained one. After the words I said, I turned around and went home. As it turned out, my wife had an affair with her boss. He is 34 years old and married. The next day, I filed for divorce. At the moment, I live alone. I communicate with my wife exclusively about our child. Thank God I've dealt with my debts. I started to get on with my life and I got a new girlfriend. I'm in no hurry to build a family. I choose the girls carefully now. I do not forget about my daughter and help financially. I do not know what is going on in my wife's personal life. But one day, she called me, but I didn't pick up the phone. Then she texted me, "How are you?" But I ignore her. I realized that the most important thing is that I will never forgive her again. Don't repeat my mistakes, friends. Good luck and healthy relationships to everyone. If you like the story, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss new videos. Now let's move on to the opinion of the author of the channel. The opinion of the author of the channel. According to tradition, I want to wish strength and patience to our hero. After listening to your story, I came to a conclusion. You have lowered your importance balance. That is, in no case should you run after your wife or girlfriend. As long as your wife sees that you need her, you're missing her. At the level of instincts, the female loses interest in the male. And while you're humiliating yourself, you look like a rag. This is the most common mistake men make. At this moment, the female begins to look for another strong man. You should ignore your wife and get on with your life. There's a click in her head. Why doesn't he suffer anymore? Why is he happy, handsome, successful without me? After that, the girls start coming back and asking for forgiveness. This does not always happen, but most often, because there are many more reasons for this. I have an article on this topic. If anyone is interested, I will make a video. Write in the comments and give feedback. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.